Peace. Welcome to another broadcast of the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace. Jakil Najala.
Peace, Jarulullah.
And we would like to welcome you to another broadcast today on September the 1st.
Man, already, man.
Wow, this month came fast, man.
This year is blown by, man.
All
Last
right.
quarter, huh?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, again, we would like to begin by telling you our sponsorship. Of course, our show is sponsored by Global Position Solutions. You can contact them at global, P as in Paul, solutions.net. And of course, please check out our live stream as well as our website information on www.knowledgeofselfradio.weebly.com. Can one of y'all hit them with the Facebook and the Twitter info?
Who's the best knower?
Oh, no, that's not okay. The Facebook is facebook.com/KOS.radio show. And the Twitter is KOS Radio 123.
Smooth with it. Like
Peace. Thank you. So, we do have a fantastic show for you today. We're going to be talking quite a bit about fitness, exercise, vitamins, and everything else related to moving ourselves into what would be considered a optimum physical condition. So let's begin with our quote for today by John F. Kennedy. And it says, "Our growing softness, our increasing lack of physical fitness is a menace to our security." So we can pass that around the round table for a minute. I mean, how does physical fitness and exercise, how does that relate to a country's national security?
Well, I'll say
yeah.
first off, I would think that's in growing with the children, right? The children will be the ones who are leading, right? So generally, you want to have fit men and women so that they can teach young men and women how to become such individuals, fit. And I think a healthy body makes for a healthy mind. You know what I mean? And it's hard to be productive when your body just doesn't give you what it needs to go.
True indeed.
I mean, I simply see it as if you can't physically protect yourself or your family, how do you expect to, protect your country? You know?
How do you?
It's simple. Simple.
True indeed. I remember a lot. Some of his statements were kind of infringing upon the importance of building up the young in order to maintain a strong nation. So,
Right.
A lot of that parallels the experiences that we're having in our family. I think some of you can probably relate to what it's like to have a sick family member for a long period of time, and how much of a strain that places on the family. So we anticipate, and of course we always hope that you find this information beneficial today. We're going to roll into our current events, and let's begin with Jakil Knowledge Allah.
I did. Peace. So,
Peace.
I want to talk to you guys about the possibility of World War III. So, I don't know if everyone's aware, but recently, since the chemical bombing went off in Syria, of which Kerry got on stage before the world and said, there is no way for us to show and prove who did it, only to know that it happened. And that's enough to go to war. Now, fortunately, only 9% of Americans were dumb enough to to fall behind that and actually want to go to war, where you have 91% of Americans saying, no, that's really, why would you do that? Yeah, we're going to get into another Iraq, another Iran. No one wants to do that. Even further than that. Yeah.
This is John Kerry saying that? Okay.
I'll double check that, but I want to say it was John Kerry. And then, probably stuff I lost my train of thought. Oh, so along with that, Congress, basically Obama also got up before everyone and said, look, I don't need anyone's right to go to war. I'll get it from NATO, basically international. Yeah, and Congress was like, well, no, that's not how it works. And you have multiple generals and other people saying, no, that's not how it works. And we're not going to allow you to do that this time, because there's been other times where he's declared air raids or whatever, and Bush guilty of the same kind of things without consulting Congress and getting right, because that's Congress's job is to, and well, part of their job, right, is to give powers of war. And so basically because of that, Obama just recently came out and said, and I find this interesting because his approval rating is dropped down very low, and war would have definitely been a good way to kind of increase that and make him look better on the way out. But the way that they state this article, this is in Business Insider. It says Obama changed his mind on Syria at the last minute.
Wow.
Yeah. So everyone was staging up for war. Russia and China both said, look, if you attack, and then they're speaking to America, they said, look, if you attack, we're going to attack too. And they've already been moving over big weapons and getting ready to go in. And so it's very interesting that on the backs of this, now I think personally they can still spin it, right? Because Obama's the man of peace, although he got that award for doing nothing. But now he can look like an actual peaceful guy. Right. He's like, hey, I don't want to go to war.
Right.
That's not a good idea. Let's think about this rationally. In which case, hey, dude, you stopped World War III. Now you actually earned that peace prize. You shouldn't get another one, but the one that you have, you can keep it.
So, what has anything been disclosed in terms of what are the international interests in Syria? Because I haven't really gathered that over
I don't
the
know
years.
How much of an interest it is particularly in Syria as much as it may be more of a staging and a launching area for further attacks, right? Because Iran is also talking about getting into the war. We've been wanting to get at them for a long time, so that would be a good excuse to go get at them now, right? Because they could launch a terrorist attack or something, and then now we have to go get them, and so that's...
Yeah, but let's not forget, remember a couple shows back, the Third World Country show. Syria was one of the top 5 countries that were considered a third world country, but one of the larger carriers of the natural resources, from oil to various other different things that are, of course, desirable for America to have.
Right,
so,
right. It's a great point.
Right. I mean, it's always self-affirming, when you think about how capitalism works in the world. And, we're the gods, so please don't align us with any type of communism or socialism or any isms. To quote our brother El Hajj Malik Shabazz, any ism. We deal with Godism. So it's either, as far as we're concerned, it's either right or it's wrong.
Right.
So I have yet to see a war, technically speaking, that has been fought for the right reasons, for any side for that matter. Right. Some of you always bring up, oh, well, if it wasn't for this, these group of people would have taken over the world. Okay, you can have that argument, but at the same time, when we're talking about weapons of war and armament, and I heard you say Russia and China, if you all go back into history, you would find out that Russia has probably a little bit more nuclear arms than the United States. They're the 2 major companies. Did I say companies?
It was one and the same.
What's wrong with me?
It's like you said, I was one and the same.
Yeah. They're 2 of the countries who have the most nuclear weapons out of every single nation on the planet.
Right. And that was actually part of the thing that... So, interestingly enough, it kind of brings up a whole other conversation, but... I'm having a conversation with some people I work with, and they didn't want to check the facts that Russia and China were going to go to war, but they were willing to check the facts on this other story that was completely not important. And I was like, well, look, dude, not only is this potentially World War III, but like you said, Russia and China have a lot of nuclear weapons, and we have nuclear weapons too. And you don't want to be... It's like my martial art teacher always says, he who hesitates is a loser, right? So you don't want to be the second one to push the button. That being said, it's like, okay, hey, everyone is kind of itchy. So I think whatever the reason Obama decided to stand down, ultimately it's a good reason, because not only is it going to stop a potential World War III, but with stopping that, you stop the potential threat of nuclear war.
Wow.
Right.
you know,
Who would have thought? You know.
these fools are crazy.
Word.
You know, I go from breakfast to hearing about World War III. It's unbelievable. Well, thank you for sharing that, Brother Jaquil. I wanted to share a current event that recently came out, and you can find this on a lot of your major news station websites or in their publications. But in Southern California, they're proposing that air quality monitors will be installed to measure vehicle pollution in Southern California, specifically next to Southern California freeways. So, according to a 2008 Cal State Fullerton study of the following places: Los Angeles, Riverside, Orange County, and San Bernardino counties, they found that 3,052 deaths and 2,300 hospital admissions were attributed to pollution from cars. And some of the health risks identified are asthma, bronchitis, low birth weight, autism, and lung and brain cancers. So we introduced this on a previous show where the UCLA study showed that people that lived adjacent to freeways were commonly diagnosed with some of the illnesses that I just listed, including autism.
Right.
So what these monitors are supposed to do is they're supposed to determine the amount of pollution that is coming from the freeways. And I think they had said that they wanted to measure, residences within 300 miles of the freeway to determine exactly how much pollution they were getting. So, it's pretty interesting because our air quality is absolutely horrible in California just overall. And there probably are some really simple solutions, but here we are. We're going to spend a lot of money.
Big fans like China tried and just blow the...
Or just stopping those planes from leaving the chemtrails in the sky.
Right.
Might be an answer.
Well, I mean, I found it interesting that a lot of those things that you named on that list can all also be caused by vaccines, too. So, I mean, I wonder, would that number be as high if those people weren't vaccinated?
Interesting. That's an interesting theory there. I think instead of wasting a tremendous amount of tax dollars on determining what's causing air pollution, they need to go straight to the heart of the issue. The issue is, of course, we need a little bit more investment in the green industry.
Right.
We're still consuming large amounts of gas, petroleum. I'm guilty. However, these cars that they're producing nowadays, they're no way aligned with the needs of the environment or with the environment in mind.
Right. And I can hear the people screaming, my Prius, my Prius. And I'm going to pull up the article. To make the battery for your Prius causes more harm to the earth than driving my gas-powered car.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Even my V8 gas-powered car. So think about that with your Starbucks while you're saving the environment.
So, hey, why don't we roll into the next current event with Jarul?
All right, so...
Sounds yummy.
Yeah, so all you righteous people out there who say, I don't eat pork, but I do eat a little seafood.
Right.
You're still eating pork.
Mm.
um, so yeah, the more we learn about the practices as it relates to our food, more specifically meat, the more you realize that the way to go is vegetarian.
Right.
And by vegetarian, I don't mean just not eating meat. I mean eating vegetation. you know,
Actually consuming vegetables and fruits.
exactly. And I'm no tree hugger. This is just what I've come to in my research. So.
Right. Well, so it's interesting that you talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Japanese scientists, and we've all been taught to think that Japanese scientists are super intelligent, smart.
Right.
Yeah. So these super brilliant people in white coats have come to the conclusion that if you smile and laugh, the radiation which is leaking from Fujiman will not affect you. Yeah, see, right now you're doing a great job at stopping the radiation from affecting you. So that's awesome. Way to set the example in preventing radiation from affecting you. Yeah. They said that they practiced or they tested this on some animals, in which I don't know any dogs or cats that you can make laugh or smile. But in any event, they tested this on some animals, and they came to the conclusion that it's okay for people who live in that area and people who are off the coast of the Pacific Ocean, California, Oregon, all those places, right? For you to get seafood that comes from there, which has been shown recently to have way more radiation than like your tuna. So, as you were talking about feeding the pork and stuff, not only are they getting fed pork feces, but it's way more radioactive than it was previously.
Right.
Key words in that article.
Wow.
But as long as you smile and laugh, you'll be
okay. Unbelievable, man. These are intelligent people we're talking about. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that, God. Okay, well, we're going to go into today's questions for today. To begin with, number one, does body mass and or weight reflect the true measure of one's internal health? What is the difference between muscle and fat? Is exercise more important nowadays than it was in the past? Has exercise equipment improved the health of people since its inception? You won't get a free membership to Gold's Gym after this show. Do diets work? Do vitamins provide you with the yield a person's physical body is in need of? Are fat burners and supplements really good for your health? Do crunches really work? What are healthy ways of developing abdominal muscle strength?
I
mess that word up all the time. I just say abs.
So, it's really just abs. So we're going to get into the first segment, which is titled The Myths and Facts of Exercise. So the first thing is that we ask ourselves, what's fat versus muscle and what's the difference? And of course we have two, what I would consider experts in the field of health and fitness and training. So I wanted to just pass it over to Jarul. Can you begin by just defining what fat is and what muscle is, and what the difference is for your average, person that exercises on a regular basis?
Well, simply put, fat is basically what builds up when you have an excess of caloric intake or just eat too much. You know, when you think about it from the perspective of our, say, human history on the planet, it's essential that our bodies work in a fashion that during certain times where there's a surplus of food, we're able to store that food for later use as far as energy goes. But we're not in that way of life anymore as far as migrating to different areas where there may not be food for a little while and things of that nature. So the concept of storing the food away is now changed, So in this day and time, people need to be more concerned with, not overdoing it as far as eating too much fat, but not to stray too far off into that. Fat is basically Um, basically, it's simply put, like I said, it's something that is built or stored energy. You know, simply put. Um, and when you look at muscle, muscle is what causes your frame to move. So you're dealing with your bones and things of that nature. You know, for it to actually do what your brain is telling it to do, the muscle is the activator of that. Um, yeah, so.
So I had a question about that. I know that this is probably something that a lot of people in the audience want to know. When you look at people who, you know, spent a large part of their life lifting weights and developing that muscle, why is it that they get flabby so quickly? You know, considering their history of lifting weights and monitoring their health in that way, where does that come from?
Well, that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, really, it just deals with the amount of calories you have to take in to maintain that muscle mass. So when you, for example, you know, I played football. There were, you know, so many of my ex teammates and things of that nature are now, you know, obese and fat.
Wow.
But it's not hard to think that, okay, how do you you go from being, you know, a top notch athlete to obese and fat when you start looking at the nutrition. So exercise and the amount of calories that you're expending during practice was so high that you could basically eat anything you wanted because you were going to burn it off within, you know, an hour, 2 hour practice. But when you take those same concept of eating outside of that lifestyle and you're not exercising or burning calories at that same rate, quite naturally you're going to gain a lot of weight. So
Right, for sure. And I think to add on what you said, part of it too is that when you stop working out anymore, well, when you work out, especially with weights, right, you have for lack of better words, an unnatural stimulus being put on your body, right? So whereas if you were to just lightweight or do body weight, that's something that you're always carrying around and working on. So when you don't have that same kind of stimulus, your body or your muscles aren't the demand isn't so high, right? So your body compensates for not needing to have that kind of demand, so you don't need as big this of a muscle.
That's deep. You know,
practice, you know.
That's deep because, you know, again, you know, I've been thin my whole life, you know, and I have a hell of a metabolism.
Because you don't watch television, like we talked about on that TV show. Check that out.
I have a hell of a metabolism, and I don't watch TV. So I have some bad habits on there, but before those bad habits, man, honestly, they called me T-Bone when I was a teenager. So this is a reality. But yes, that's one thing that I've always been curious about. I'm glad that you answered that question. So I think the main thing that, you know, I drew from that, you know, and we'll give this to you, the viewing audience, is that if your eating habits don't change and you have what would be considered poor eating habits, or you don't change your eating habits, if you decide to change your exercise regimen, it will lead to obesity and some problems later on. So now why don't we get into how diets actually work? I know my brother Jarul is definitely one who's not an advocate of diet. So I would like you to explain why that is, and then we can just kind of pass it around the round table about what a diet is.
Well, you know, it's simple. A diet, when people hear diet, they think temporary. What can I do that will get the weight that I want to lose off, you know, in the shortest amount of time? But you got to recognize that, you know, weight loss, fitness, and those types of things is an actual lifestyle. So it has to be done daily, you know. So, you know, you think about, for example, a lot of the fad diets that were coming out, like your, what was the one diet there?
The Atkins?
Yeah, the Atkins and all these different diets.
That one is terrible for your liver.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know you can add on about that. But when you think about it, if you're removing something like, for example, carbohydrates from your diet, you know, these low-carb diets that came out, that was one of the major fad diets. Carbohydrates are essential for energy. Now, there's different types of carbohydrates, and the carbohydrates that you want to intake are, you know, the ones that are actually beneficial for you. Not to stray too far off into that, but if you remove that, which they say is about 60% of your diet should come from carbohydrates, quite naturally, if you remove that from your diet, you're gonna lose weight.
Mm.
But can you think, or do you think that you could really maintain a diet without that major macronutrient for the rest of your life? No.
Can you give the people one example of a carbohydrate that most of us consume on a regular basis?
Bread, potatoes,
Mm.
your French fries,
Yeah, I mean that's it right there. The staple of what we consume in America.
Straight up, the
Right.
staple diet. I was just about to say that, man.
Potato chips, things of that nature.
Uh-huh.
So, so basically, when you remove something so major, you're gonna lose weight. But as soon as you eat it again, your body's gonna say, "Okay, I haven't had this in a while. Who knows when I won't have it again, or when I will have it again? So let me store more away." And you actually gain more weight from it.
Wow.
It's like one of those things, like I was saying about survival. So if you're out in the wilderness, you have food, then you don't have food, you find food again, you eat it, your body's going to say, okay, who knows how long I'll go without eating this food again, so let me store more away and save it for later.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
You wanted to add on about specific diet and, how do you see diets, guys?
No, I agree 100%. Diets just don't work. If you look at the first three letters of the word, right? You can stop there, right? The next one is going to tell you the truth, right? And so I always tell my clients, I go, look, I'm not asking you to go on a diet. I'm asking you to just change the way that you eat, right? So it's more of a lifestyle change than it is of a diet, because like you said, in your mind, in this society, we're programmed that if you tell someone it's a diet, it's a short-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then your mind starts thinking in terms of things that you can't have versus all the things that you can have. Because even when I tell people, look, you're not going on a diet, you're just going to change the way that you eat.
Right.
And you're going to incorporate some other things, and you're going to not eat some other things.
Right.
And I would think that would sound simple enough. And then they're like, well, what am I going to eat? Right? If I can't eat, sometimes I tell them they can't eat meat for a certain amount of time, right? Because they have some kind of issue. Okay, so here, no eating meat, but you can have, this, this, and this. And they're like, well, what else can I have? I'm like, well, there's so many things you can make, right? Have you ever made tofu, or have you ever go on the internet, look up vegan recipes?
Yeah.
Where people, when you say diet, they just start thinking to all the things they can't have.
Right.
Right? And so I like to tell people it's not a diet, it's more just you're changing, the way that you're eating.
True indeed. That's a great discussion. So,
and I think the Atkins diet too.
Thank you. That's what
real
I wanted to
quickly,
add on.
Add on, definitely.
when you where they store up on eat a whole lot of meat and no carbs and just high protein, you're basically overstressing your liver and your kidneys.
Can you let the people know what does a high protein diet consist of?
Well, as far as Atkins, they're talking about just eating pure meat, right?
What?
No, not Atkins. Pardon me, I'm thinking of something else.
Is it the that one? There's so many diets out there. Is it the?
No, it's the Atkins diet.
It's the Atkins.
Yeah, I forgot the whole regimen, but it's not a high protein diet. It's a high carbs diet.
Well,
okay.
Nah, I think the Atkins is the one where you're removing the carbs, low carb.
Low carb diet, high protein.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what give the people some example of what is a high protein diet consist of? What are they eating?
Lots of meat, starches.
Just meat.
Right.
Lots of meat and starches.
I mean, it's just the complete antithesis of what they're saying in medical science that we should eat.
Lots of meat and starches.
Okay.
Sausage, egg breakfast. And
if you're gonna, the thing is that you have to balance that out with some kind of something green, right? In order to have it go down into your body properly. You don't want to overstress your kidneys and liver, and they're putting too much stress on that. Although they're attempting to say that they're doing for a short time, you have to realize that the majority of people who are already beginning these types of diets already have bad kidney liver issues.
Wow.
from the beginning, right? And then most of those people also have, because of that, have gut issues, right? So now you start talking about the absorption of vitamins into the body, right? Which I think we're going to get into later, but that's why you see a lot of times people end up urinating out a lot of the vitamins that they take, right? It's because of bad, not only that the vitamins are poorly designed, but just bad gut absorption.
So how does everyone feel about juicing, the juicing diets? Because I know there are several what we consider juicing regimens that people are engaged in.
Who's that one guy who's like the old white guy and he's got that commercial? He likes to juice. Jack.
Oh, Jack LaLanne. Yeah, he got his juice.
So how do we feel about juicing and its benefits, and would that be placed in the category as not do's in terms of diets? Because I know the woman in my life, she did the reboot for a period of time, and I mean, wow, you're talking about losing like 9 pounds in a week.
For
now,
sure.
is there any harm to that, or are there more benefits than anything?
I would definitely say there's more benefits. Now, if you're gonna use that as your only meal for an extended period of time, then that's where you may be losing, right? But I think definitely like short term, if you're thinking of like fasting, you want to go like a month fast or a 60-day fast, and you want to juice fast. Yeah, that's an awesome thing.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, when I first get a client, I strive to get them in a mindset of getting on some kind of reboot or juice program. Because what it's going to do is it's going to start cleaning the toxins out of your body first and foremost. But you're getting a surplus of nutrients into your system. And on top of that, which to me I think is most important, it starts to get you away from the addictive qualities that you were getting from the foods that you were eating on a daily basis. So if you can get people off that addiction part, then they're going to be more successful. So I definitely advocate juicing.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad that you confirmed that, because at some point, I could see my black woman. She was saying like, I'm getting a little hungry, and I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing wrong if you eat a decent meal in the evening. If you're doing that regimen in the morning and in the afternoon, or noon and then afternoon, and you're following all of those things. I told her, I said, you can do those things interchangeably. You know what I mean? The point is not to debilitate yourself in any way. You know what I mean? If you want to eat this tonight, go ahead and eat it for dinner. You know what I mean? We're not going to McDonald's or anything like that.
That's the whole thing, yeah. like what I tell my clients, it's not so much, the juice is important, but it's basically getting you away from all the things that you felt like you needed to eat. Oh, I need that steak, I need that this, I need that. So once you start juicing, and I get this with a lot of my clients, they're like, wow, I'm not even hungry, or I'm surprised that I haven't wanted this, and this.
Right.
It does keep you full.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, part of that, like you said, you're getting nutrients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're eating foods that are empty of those things, you eat a lot of it, but you're still hungry. It's because your body didn't get what it needed.
Right.
So it's still, okay, well, let me eat something else. Maybe I'll get it from there. Well, let me eat this. Maybe I'll get it from there. Right? But if you juice, you're definitely going to get, especially for people who are not normally eating fruits and vegetables on a daily basis, you're going to get a lot of things that you don't normally consume that will boost you up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny because America, the leading country in obesity, right? I want to say 2 in 3 people are obese or overweight, and I think 2 in 3 are overweight, and I think 1 in 3 are obese. But I would also say that the ones who are obese are probably the most malnourished.
That's a heavy statement.
That is a heavy statement.
That's a very heavy statement. Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt. And it begins in public schools. Right now, there's a lot of discussion in certain school districts about whether or not the new proposed meal plans for cafeteria food, if it's how shall I say, if it is profitable. I know one school district, I'll leave nameless, just for sake of protecting those of us on this show. But apparently, this school district recently said that they were going to not follow the meal plan that has been passed down through the federal government, which is supposed to reduce childhood obesity.
Oh, really?
And reduce the amount of exposure that kids are having, or excuse me, students are having to these high calorie foods and these unhealthy foods. But the complaint now at the school is that we're not making any money. So what's happening is you have so many students who are going in, they're looking for the pizza, they're looking for the hamburgers, and instead there are some other items that they're just really not gravitating towards. So now it's going to be sort of a debate that ensues right now in public schools about food and diets.
Wow.
Shame on you, America.
Is that change part of? I know on the show we covered the new food pyramid based upon the Obama administration. Is that in any relationship to that? As far as the reorganization?
Yes, I mean, because this has been proposed for. I mean, this is going into its 5th year of office. So, and actually prior to that, they have been debating changing the menus in public schools. So it's been a really long, dragged out debate. I think California is kind of on the forefront of making those changes, but there's been some resistance because I know at one of the schools that I worked at, one of the first things they did was they sent this out as a mandate, like all soda machines, any type of machine selling Gatorade and Powerade and all these other drinks, they took them out of the schools.
Really?
Yes. The only thing they had at some point was water and a few other items, that weren't, drinks with carbonation in them.
Okay,
that's
good. I know,
it's a battle,
some
right?
schools in now why, right? They, due to certain people, the gods putting out, writing and whatever, protesting whatever they were doing, they don't serve pork, and they've cleaned up the menu. As far as that, so maybe we need to just get a little radical as far as who we're talking to and
Indeed.
school systems are here, huh?
Be healthy, y'all. Listen to that song by Dead Prez. Very interesting song.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's before we go into weightlifting and weight training, why don't we go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge Yourself Radio Show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace. Jakil Knowledge Allah.
Peace, Jarulullah.
And before we left, we were talking quite a bit about diets and the proper food order that one should really consider when trying to maintain optimum health. And of course, we can't do this show without going into the idea of exercise, which involves weight training, also called strength training. So why don't we begin with, I think, a really pressing question that we pose to one another, because we do like to gear this show not only to children, but to our women as well, because of course we know that women are the vessels for children, and we're all here because of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that we advocate that women's health or a woman's health is extremely important. Of course, a man's health is important as well.
Right.
However, we have to remember that many children spend quite a bit of time with their mother, and her eating habits and the way she cooks and what she does, it's always in some way transferred to the child as well as other members of the family.
For sure.
And I know you can testify to that because you do have a couple of children in your family.
I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. But I'll definitely say that, yeah, for sure. How the woman eats, generally, I think in some terms may even override how the man is eating and the example that he's trying to set.
Especially if she's the one cooking too.
Right.
Because you're not gonna be like, oh, I don't want to eat that. You know what I mean? Like,
you really can't be like,
you
I don't
know,
want to eat
right?
that.
If you really want to eat something,
Right.
you know, you should just keep your mouth shut. But yeah, it's tough.
And have a good night's sleep.
Right, and,
Right.
and that old comment that some of our mothers may have made. Well, if you don't like what I cook, then you need to cook yourself. So
Yeah.
right. that's something that comes up. So to address our question, how do we feel about women engaging in strength training? What are the pros and cons that are out there in the research that we came across?
You want to?
Yeah, I think it's essential that women do strength train. Now, it's important that, when you hear strength train, that you don't think of like powerlifting and things like that. Now, women can do those types of things, but they have to recognize that it's going to have a certain effect on their bodies.
Yeah, a certain effect.
Yeah, right.
Masculine effect.
Right. Well, yeah, you're gonna get a lot of those qualities, but I think the biggest thing that I get from women is that they don't want to weight train because they think they're gonna get buff. But it's important to recognize, for you to gain muscle at that capacity, you're gonna have to take some kind of supplement, whether it be andro or some kind of hormone,
Right.
masculine hormone, to build muscle at that capacity.
Body's not designed to do that.
Right.
Normally.
Exactly. So
I think that's the key.
that's the key, right? So I think, especially in this day and time, for women to maintain certain strength in their bones and things of that nature, you got to do some sort of resistance training, but it has to be more functional as opposed to static type of training.
Right. Yeah, I don't necessarily need you to sport a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Or 12-pack for that matter. And have arms as big as my head and legs, like tree trunks. That's not necessarily, like you said, practical.
Right. It's not
functional.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas I also don't think I need to look like that either. You know what I mean? Again, it's not. I do martial arts, so as far as that's concerned, you don't want to be big and bulky like that.
Right. Because it slows you down.
Slows you down. Can't move as well. Flexibility.
Right.
Right. I would say I think women should get involved with some kind of workout like how you do, or even some kind of CrossFit gym. Right. We train at a CrossFit gym. And some of those girls in there are snatching 200 pounds. But if you saw them in a dress, you wouldn't think that girl will pick you up and throw you across the room. But
wow.
Don't grab her the wrong way.
Right. And, I was reading somewhere that it does, when you're engaged in the process of trying to get buff, it does alter your estrogen levels. So some women that may be concerned with, the masculine expression through their physique, that's one of the things you should do research on in terms of how does heavyweight lifting
That's the key.
impact, you know, your estrogen levels. We're talking about heavyweight
Right.
lifting.
That's the key.
So when the guy Jarul said, I want to make sure I remember resistance training.
Yeah.
Things like kayaking came to mind. You know, if you look at some of the sports in the Olympics and you look at some of the sports that women are engaged in, you know, things such as kayaking and swimming, uh, they still produce the desired results in terms of, you know, cutting your physique in a way that you want. But you know, of course, there are women who say, "Well, you know, I'm interested in body sculpting and things of that nature." But
and they still lift weights.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, you can like women can lift weights. It's just a matter of the type of weight that you put on your frame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to be big and bulky, you have to put heavy weight on your frame. If you want to be lean and more athletic, lightweight's a lot of reps. You know, it's not high science. So I think above all, in this day and time, exercise should be functional. By functional, I just mean you should be doing things that make your lifestyle, the things you do on a daily basis, easier.
Right.
You know, especially because most of us are cooped up in a desk job all day in a sedentary lifestyle, and that has.
Or playing Xbox all day.
Or playing Xbox all day, and you know, and those things, yeah, those things decondition the body, and then you know you put yourself in a you know position to get injured. So
right. And I think that goes back to what we were stating earlier when you asked the question about why when you lift weights and then you stop lifting weights, do you return to flat so quickly? Right, as like the guy was saying, you know, generally you're not doing those things. You're not lifting 500 pounds, 400 pounds, 300 pounds daily.
Yeah.
Right? So when you stop doing that, that's going to take an effect. You're only typing on your keyboard and, you know, moving your monitors, the heaviest thing that you're lifting, right? So,
or some hot Cheetos.
Right. And you know, it's like, you know,
Starbucks cup.
Right, is your nervous system basically what you put your nervous system through is how it's going to respond. So if you put a lot of heavy weight on your frame, your nervous system's going to tell your body that it needs more muscle to deal with that weight that's going to be on your frame.
You know, and a precaution in terms of women who, if you're engaging in heavy weightlifting, there are some astounding statistics out there that actually breaks down exactly how many women have been diagnosed with having a hernia, and they didn't even know it.
Wow.
There's a certain percentage of those women who got a hernia through delivering a child.
Wow.
And sometimes a hernia can just kind of hang out there, and then later on in life, it comes to the surface. You know what I mean? So whatever it is that you're practicing in your weight regimen or your exercise regimen, be mindful of some of the side effects to that type of exercise.
And I want it to be clear that we're not saying don't lift weights, because it's very important that you do lift weights, but make sure that it's functional. It should be exercises that require your whole body, whether you know your legs, your core, and upper body all at the same time. You know, so yeah, that's important.
Right, and speaking of core, the next thing we wanted to talk about is the adverse effects of weight training and also the benefits of calisthenics. I know that when I was coming up under my Sifu, one of the things that he always was asked is, you know, hey, how do you feel about weight training? And he would answer it simply. He said, I think it's good, but don't overdo it. It's always better to do exercises where you're using your own body weight. So I just wanted to kind of pass that around in terms of the benefits of calisthenics, as well as what are some of the adverse effects of weight training just in everyone's experience.
I would say as far as the adverse effects of weight training, it's just improper, right? I'm sure the guy will add on more, but most people don't incorporate the whole body, right? So you have your top half that's really strong, but then your lower half isn't strong, right? Or your lower half is really strong and your top half isn't strong, and then there's different instabilities, or you're working out triceps or biceps, but you're not working out the other muscles that connect those two to make those strong. Yeah, people just think, I don't know what people just think. Or maybe people don't think.
Well, what I'm laughing about is I like the fact that you broke that down, because I don't know how many of you have probably seen people who they have a humongous upper portion of their body,
in the gym,
and then they have like toothpick legs.
Flexion,
right?
Wow, wow.
And you ask yourself, like, did you look at your body proportion? I mean, are you really?
Right. I'll flick your leg and break it in half.
Right.
Your arms are really strong, though.
I think a really good reference for those of you who are interested in the exercises that the gods are talking about in terms of the regimen you should engage in. I think the Tao of Jeet Kune Do is a really good manual. That book was loaned out and was never returned to me. It was so good for that person. But he has a really good day by day or week by week plan where he tells you, Bruce Lee, I'm sorry, I didn't mention the author. The author is Bruce Lee, the author of the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, where he writes all of the regimens, including weights, how many reps, and exactly how you should divide your exercise regimen to improve different parts of your body. So that's a great book, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then not to digress too far, but that's kind of why people would question Bruce Lee's skill, because they never really got to see past jab or jab cross or a fake jab kick, right? Because he was so proficient as far as working out those different muscles. He was like, okay, if I need to punch, what muscles are involved in punching? And how do I align those muscles for maximum efficiency? And then he'd work those muscles out and work that line. So it was perfect every time. So yeah, you get hit with the jab, and you might not get to see if you could block your punch or kick because he knocked you out already.
Right.
And that's the functional part, though. Yeah. And that's what I was stating, is that, I think martial arts is probably the most complete, functional strength resistance training, core training, you name it, as it relates to any type of workout that I know of. But when it comes to weightlifting, the science is just really coming into shape in this day and time as far as the functionality of the body and how to incorporate weights and workouts that are more functional, that really deal with getting your body to its optimum level of conditioning. Not just on face value, not just so that you look swole, but actually making you more functional. You know what I mean?
Right, for sure. So just a question popped into my mind. I'll shoot it out to the table. Do you think the reason the big swole look has become, or is the kind of standard or model of what it means to say, okay, now I work out, is because it's based on kind of like that Western European big guy, whereas you'd see in like Indian culture or African cultures, right? The body types were
lean and cut,
right? And that dude was definitely. You look at the Shaolin monks. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Shaolin monks, but you see this little Asian guy get punched in the chest by some big buff workout dude, and he's just like, "Well, okay, you gonna punch me?" And the guy's like, "Wah!" And he's hitting him as hard as he can, and the little guy just walking through his punches, right? And that's because for other reasons, but his body is just perfected as far as working out each part of his muscle groups and how to.
It's a unit. It's truly a unit.
One thing.
Yeah. It's truly a unit.
Right, and I think just to take it back even farther than just our modern history, but we all are familiar with Greek mythology and the fact that one of the gods, Atlas, or he was actually a Titan, he was cursed by the Olympians to hold the world on his shoulders. So then that whole image, that whole image has been transferred over into Western culture to where the person who's considered stronger and healthier always has these visible muscles. However, you go into places like the Shaolin Monastery, if you look at all the documentaries, you'll see these lean vegetarian monks who can do these unbelievable feats.
Idio dude doing one finger push-ups or whatever.
Right. I mean, so, everything has to be questioned. This is a knowledge day. It's a knowledge of self show. And I just want to put out there, based on like on the heels of what Jeru was saying, is in Western exercise, there's no sense of advocating to find your center of gravity. Even in weight training, most people have no idea what the center of gravity is, which is why people are injured. You fall over in a weightlifting competition in the Olympics. How is it that you could get to that level and not even know where your core strength is?
Or how could you be someone who maxes out 500 pounds on the bench, squats 1,000 pounds on the squat rack, but walks outside and trips over the curb and breaks their leg,
blows their back out.
Right. It's because it's not functional. Those
Right.
types of things aren't functional. You're not really training in a fashion that's conducive to your body as a unit.
Right. You're not going to be throwing barrels over the wall every day of your life.
Right. Right.
What are you going to do the other days when you're not throwing big heavy barrels over the wall?
Right. True indeed. Now, what about calisthenics? What are calisthenics, and how are they? I won't say more beneficial than heavyweight training, but why is that a more convenient way of getting that physique cut up the way many of us want it to be cut up?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, it's simply just the unit factor. You're actually training your body as a unit. Because think about it. How many times do we ever do anything that encompasses one motion? I could see, if you're at a desk on a computer, but in our lifestyle, you go to pick up your child, you're twisting, you're squatting a little bit, you're grabbing your child, and you're using your arms to lift the child up. That's a total and full body process. So calisthenics is something that incorporates your full body as a unit.
I like that.
Yeah, it's more beneficial. One thing I did want to mention relating to adverse effects to weight training, especially in this day and time, is the postural problem that people have. So if you're at a desk all day like this with your shoulders rounded forward and you got your neck jotted out and all these types of things, now you're putting extra weight on a body that's already deconditioned. You're just adding to that, and then you're going to end up injuring yourself.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I learned almost the hard way is when you're doing bench pressing, and we'll get more into some of the adverse effects of weight training and some of the things that people need to be aware of just when they work out in the gym. But when you're doing bench pressing, the minute you arch your back to lift that weight up, you're moving closer to a serious back injury. Your back should be completely flat. Of course, you need someone to assist you doing that. And again, my brother right here is a fitness trainer. It's always advisable to work out with other people who are aware of, okay, is your posture correct? Before you lift anything.
Right, and it's one of those things where if you have to do all of that to get the weight up, it's too much weight.
Why even do it?
But no, remember what's in the gym, brother. You got the hot women in there.
Yeah.
You don't want the sister to think that you're weak.
What's worse though, you not being able to push the weight up, or you blowing your back out in front of that woman, and she, like, wow, look at
and
this
not being able to go to work because she was trying to look look cool for some lady.
What are some calisthenics? I mean, I know one of the things that's really good for me is push-ups. That would be one of them. I know some people advocate dips. Dips can be good. What are some other calisthenics that we could kind of tell the people to engage in regularly?
Get yourself a pull-up bar.
Oh yeah.
Get some pull-ups in. Running.
Old school, jumping jacks.
Yeah.
Jump rope.
Planks. I like planks.
Planks.
Can you describe planks?
Plank is basically you are, say you start out on your stomach, laying in face down. Put your forearms on the ground, and you just lift your midsection off the ground. Me and Jock Hill plan on putting a little video together at some point. But basically, you're just holding your midsection off the ground. Now, the reason why, and we'll probably get more into this later, but the reason why a plank is very important because that's teaching your posture and a certain group of muscles that are important to keeping your posture upright to engage, as opposed to being deconditioned, which we all are. We all tend to hunch over I'm guilty of it at times. So it's just about bringing those muscles in so that you're more upright in proper position.
That's great. And this bit of information, and all the information that's going to be shared on the show, would actually cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars with some fitness trainers. There's no doubt about that. So we encourage you to have all of your friends and all your family log in and check us out on the Not Yourself Radio Show, and of course look at Plus Bills that have been on there for quite some time. I know Jarul has a really good sequence of exercises on one of his Plus Bills where he's showing you just the level of physical adaptation in his exercise regimen that he's applied.
He's no joke.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. You want to know who the Incredible Hulk is? I'm sitting right next to him. So why don't we go ahead and take a break? We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about resistance training for children. Is that a positive or a negative thing? Peace. Come right back at you.
Peace.
Peace and welcome back to the Knowledge Yourself Radio Show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace. Jakil Najala.
Peace, Jarul.
And we're having a heavy discussion about diet and exercise and some of the things that you may want to incorporate. And of course, look out for to help you get into a more optimum condition. So before we left, I did mention that we were going to talk a little bit about children resistance training. And the question that we pose is, does children resistance training stunt a child's growth? So does anyone want to add on in terms of what is child or children resistance training?
I think for me, I do have some children clients. I think in this day and time, for the lack of children being as active as they once were, it's important that they have some type of workout program. But as far as taking somebody into a gym setting and piling a bunch of weight on top of them, nah, I don't advise that. Now from my research, there hasn't been a whole bunch of substantial science that says weights stunt a child's growth. But logic would say if your child is growing and when you start piling a bunch of weight on a child's frame, it's gonna affect their hormones in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I would say that I know I keep using the same word, but functionality. You have to have a functional type of workout for children nowadays.
For sure, for sure. Running some laps. I would say things that don't impact. So basically, in the arm, in this area here, you've got growth plates, right? Same thing for the legs. So when you put weight on those, right, you're impacting those and causing. That's where you get stunted growth issues and stuff like that from children lifting weights. So I would say do any kind of workout that is the opposite of that, right? And kids are generally good at that on their own. You take them to the playground, and they're doing pull-ups.
Right, monkey
right?
bars.
Yeah, because they're on the monkey bars,
yeah,
and they're pulling the gymnasium thing, flipping and turning, so they're working the core out.
Yeah.
Kids are good at working out on their own. I would say, if anything, take your kids outside and just let them be kids.
Right, and you know,
don't sit up for no, I want to stay at home and play with my family on the Xbox.
Yeah.
Old school, like my mom used to say, the sun is out, right?
Right.
So the sun should be out.
so the sun should be out.
Right.
And out, I was. She didn't have to ask. I was already like,
Right.
Mom, I had cereal. Can I go outside?
Right.
Right. So I know there's an interesting article that came out, and there's an advocate by the name of Michael Mejia, and he's an advisor not only for Men's Health Fitness, and he's the owner of a sports conditioning company called BASE. And one of his warnings is that, and this is just piggybacking on what Jaquil just said, that if you're doing any type of resistance training with a child, in other words, piling weights on top of them, trying to get them to bulk up for whatever sport, usually football, you could actually it would lead to them damaging their growth plates. And he described that growth plates are found at the end of long bones.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're talking about is the long-term effects of child resistance training. So if you're advocating in high school or as early as middle school for a young person to begin this intense weight regimen, what you may do is harm their body later on, because again, their bodies are still developing.
Exactly.
And it could lead to quite a bit of complications later on, specifically back injuries.
For sure.
I know I've had high school students who play football, and they'll say things to me like, my back is hurting. I'm like, well, what did you do? Oh, well, we were working out the other day, and those are like some early indications.
I was with the homies, and
that.
they were like, "You can't do 170," and I was like, "Well, I did 170. Now you can't do 175." And we eventually got too high, but I had to lift it. And I heard this weird sound, but I was still able to push it, so I thought it was cool.
Right, right. And it goes back to that.
Oh, I was gonna say, but like the guy was saying, even at that point, it's still functional, right? So these kids are working out, but they're not working out the core and other muscles that connect to the back that are going to help take shocks and absorb hits and impacts, right? And I know you can add on more than that, the different stabilizing muscles.
Yeah. I mean, within your core, you have muscles that are specific to movement. So like your crunches, your knee raises, twisting, those types of things. And then you have a group of muscle that's specific for stability. Keep your posture in a certain position. So for
neglected muscles,
it's the most neglected muscles, right? So when you think about people who go to the gym and say they're about to do squats and they put that weight belt on, what that belt does, you have an actual group of muscles that are supposed to do that for you. So if you train those muscles properly, then you won't need a belt like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the obvious question: is why is exercise so important in this day and time?
Well, I think to me, in this day and time, more than any time that I'm aware of, people are sedentary. People aren't as active as they once were. Technology has taken a lot of the common day-to-day things that people used to do. They used to get a lot of their activity from work and those types of blue collar type of jobs. All of that's changed. So if you don't have some kind of workout program nowadays, chances are you're gonna be in trouble.
Right, for sure. Prone to injury, sickness, clarity of mind. I think is a couple of benefits that come from working out.
Right, circulation.
Right.
The difference between waking up in the morning like, wake up, and waking up in the morning like, all right, let me go ahead and get up.
Right.
You still might be like, but you're not tired. I have to get up. You're like, damn, I don't want to go to work. And that's a whole different thing. Exercise can't fix that.
Right, that's true.
Although it can maybe uplift your outlook on your work, and it might not be such a bad thing.
And I mean the fact that original people we're plagued with high cholesterol, high blood pressure. I think I can't really recall the percentage
Diabetes, yeah.
of black and brown people that have that are prone to diabetes. I mean, that is kind of out of control among our people at very young ages too.
Did y'all hear about obesity? They and this should have been my current event, but they recently said that obesity is a disease now. A disease.
Right.
Yes, yes. So make sure to stay away from anyone who's obese, 'cause you can catch that.
Right, it's
You
contagious.
don't want them sneezing on you. Make sure you don't touch the same doors or drink out of the same cups.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I think the thing with that is that now the perspective is about to change on it.
Right, exactly.
So they're gonna get treated with medication as going forward, as opposed to switching your lifestyle up.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Let me read a interesting report that came out, actually 2011. So when we share these types of statistics with you, keep in mind that until we hear that something has totally undermined some of the health uh, problems going on in America, among all people for that matter, it's probably gotten worse. So according to CNN.com, you can look at their health site. It says that in a study of more than 123,000 healthy people, the American Cancer Society found that women who spent more than 6 hours a day sitting were 40% more likely to die sooner than women who sat less.
Wow.
So there are some serious implications. And I know God had mentioned some of the consequences of not exercising, which were
prone to being sick, foggy mind, overall bad attitude,
cancer, breast and colon cancer. Uh, Exercise leads to decreased depression, anxiety, and stress. And for the guys who are just now zoning out, think about your sex life. Okay.
For sure.
Circulation.
Since we talk about the improving circulation, at some point we're gonna have to do a show about sex. You know what I mean? Not to be nasty, but just to show you the connection between the science of life and what we're advocating about exercise. And I can say for a fact that just having a history, a background of exercise consistently, it does reduce the amount of mental fatigue that we encounter just in the workplace,
Sure.
because as far as we're concerned, this is a dead world, and unfortunately you have a lot of people that happen to be your supervisors who are just zombies walking around.
Yeah, there was a study that came out recently about those who exercise, a moderate amount of time a week. Like they did a study on the elderly, and their memory actually improved a whole lot in like a short amount of time.
Right. Pendecker, the head of the art trend, he always says that he continues to practice to keep his mind sharp.
Wow.
And he's like in his late 70s. So, yeah, I totally see that as far as, and people also don't forget your mind is a muscle too, your brain.
Right.
So, Sudoku, chess, anything that'll really stimulate your mind.
Right, and
lessons.
Recently I heard a news report on KNX 1070 where it said that they found recently that the brain continues to develop well until a person is about 25 years old. So the connection between exercise and brain development is extremely important.
For sure.
I did want to just bring up the idea of fitness magazines. I know we were talking about fitness magazines, so are fitness magazines really, are they improving the health of Americans, or are they in some way preventing us from moving into a more healthy way of life? So we have a ton of fitness magazines out there. Just based in your research and your observation, gentlemen, are they helping?
Well, but also well written and beautiful colors. You know, they don't have any conflicting information in them.
Right.
Uh,
The people on the cover depict the
normal average.
Yeah, normal average people that we see on a daily basis. You know?
Yeah, I think they do greater harm for sure than good. You know, like the things we were just joking about. It's just those aren't your average people living in your normal, average, everyday situations.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, people have a false outlook on what's going to happen when you take this supplement and you're at the gym,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or can you even be at the gym that long to get that kind of result?
Mm-hmm.
That guy
Or
in the picture is a model. That's what he gets paid to do, to look like that.
Yeah, and let's not forget about photoshopping also.
I was trying to be nice, but yeah.
Right. I mean,
any picture's Photoshop.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Right. So a lot of these dudes with the 8-packs and stuff like that probably don't have it like that.
I don't know it like that.
But you know, people take stuff on face value. We all know that. So what happens is people see somebody on the cover of the magazine with a desirable frame, and they'll pick the book up. But the book itself has a whole bunch of different things that are contradictory. You know, they'll not. Don't get me wrong. There'll be some decent workouts in there, but it's not a personal workout. So it's not necessarily reflecting your needs directly.
Exactly.
You know, it's just general across the board. So it can definitely do more harm because now you're doing a workout that might not be designed for you, and now you could, you know, end up injuring yourself.
Right. Or like you mentioned, stabilizing muscles and other muscles. You may not be at that point to where you can do that kind of workout. And then, you know, either one or two things going to happen. A, you're going to hurt yourself because you're trying to do it correctly and you just can't do it. Or more likely, B, you're going to end up doing it correctly, which in the long term is going to hurt yourself. Right. You work out incorrectly, form bad posture, and
let's not forget C, get discouraged and quit, and then fall further into a state of unfitness.
But you still pay that membership.
Right, and you know, I'm glad that came out because as far as the fitness magazines, if you look at the cover of any of those magazines, you know, if you have low confidence and low self-esteem in your body type, whatever your body type is, or you know how you look, it does in some way chip away at your self-esteem and your confidence because you don't look like the people in the magazine.
Right.
Some of the readings I was doing about, you know, the pitfalls of these fitness magazines is that the exercises that they're showing actually are not there's no real follow-up to those exercises. They show you like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 steps to an exercise, but they don't really tell you how to produce the desired results in the long term. So then you have a lot of people thinking that they can do that exercise for a week because some of those exercise tips are misleading. How to get abs in a week.
Right. 6-pack abs in
2 weeks.
Right.
So, you know, that's the one thing. Please watch out for those fitness magazines, regardless of who you see on the cover. I know I've seen, you know, Venus Williams on the front, Serena Williams, you know, this powerhouse physique who was later criticized, you know, when she played, you know, some of these major tournaments, you know, people talking about her body type. So, you know, really just try to gain your own sense of beauty and love for yourself. That's really what it boils down to.
And remember, nutrition is number one. If you aren't eating right, you're not going to get that 6-pack.
Right.
It really takes like the most immaculate diet to get anywhere close to a 6-pack. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really good segue into the next question that we posed as far as the BMI test. So I know Jeru, he's a specialist here, as well as Jakil. What is misleading about the BMI test as it pertains to us trying to get into a better condition physically?
You know, the BMI is just a test that is measured by weight and height, right? So with the BMI, which stands for Body Mass Index, it's not measuring body fat per se. It's just measuring weight. So we know and understand that in our bodies we have some weight that constitutes water, you know, bones, muscle. So, for example, if me and Jaquil weighed the same or were the same height, Jaquil could be, super swole, and I could be fat.
Thanks,
But
I appreciate
you
it.
know, right? And in the BMI, I would say that we are both on the same level.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So it's misleading,
Right.
as far as where you personally should be at.
right.
mm,
And then then it doesn't take into account genetics. Certain ethnic groups.
Right.
As far as some ethnic groups tend to carry more weight.
Different places.
Yeah,
For sure.
they're more have a bulkier type of frame, like your Nigerian type of people, or people who like your Samoans, right?
mm,
They're larger people, so it's not something that is precise across the board that covers everyone. You know what I mean?
Definitely not an exact science.
Yeah, not even close. So
wow. Thank you for clearing that up.
yeah,
All right. Well, I think it would be a really good time for us to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the dangers of exercise equipment, as well as the deception surrounding medication and vitamins. Please stay with us. Peace.
peace.
Peace and welcome back to the Knowledge Yourself radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace. Jaquil Knowledge Law.
Peace to rule Allah.
And before we left you, we were talking a little bit about not only the BMI and the confusion that can be, I don't know, how should I put it? Just the confusion that can come from relying on that as an accurate
Yeah.
Measurement of your body mass,
Right.
as well as fitness magazines. So what we're doing now is we're going to roll into the danger of exercise equipment, as well as the deception surrounding medication and vitamins. So I think for most people who've had experience at gyms, a lot of things that are overlooked could actually be harmful if not to your physique, but also to your basic your immune system. So I think one of the things that came out in our research, I'll reveal to begin with. There was an interesting article on the Huffington Post in regards to gym safety, and one of the things that came out is that there are at least 5 things to look out for when you're using gyms and you're using exercise equipment. So
Obese people.
Say again?
Obese people because they're contagious.
No, that wasn't one of the
That wasn't
five.
one of the five?
Maybe it'll be number 6,
These
right?
people are so misinformed, man.
So, according to this article, and again, we always encourage you to do research on your own. Don't take anything on face value, but this is the research we found. There's an infection called MRSA, and it's translated, wow, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Apparently, it kills more Americans each year than AIDS, according to the Center for Disease Control. And basically, this is something that is contracted from a dry sauna. It can be contracted from a dry sauna at a local gym. And what is considered like a bacteria that can get under your skin under those circumstances.
Can't kill it, right?
Right, and I mean, one of the things it says that, quote, it is very easy for antibacterial resistant superbugs to become immune to chemicals that are used to clean such places, and it only takes a small cut to allow bacteria under your skin. So it says, so when you're headed to the gym, make sure to thoroughly clean and disinfect any scrapes, cuts, or abrasions, and then keep them covered during your workout and after. And a lot of this, you could also contract it from weightlifting machines. I don't know. I know my brother does his job at the gym, but when I used to go into a local gym, one of the things that I would do, religiously, is wipe off my own.
Yeah.
Like you bring in something, that would prevent the spread of germs. I don't know what would be a good thing when you go into a gym to wipe off the equipment you're using. What would be the best thing to use, or at least a good thing?
Well, most gyms should have, and I think it's required by law, some kind of disinfectant spray that they have there. I was actually speaking with a doctor though who does frequent the gym, and he was saying that stuff, it doesn't matter what you really do, you can't really be that effective in killing the bacteria that are in the gym. So it's really just about you being aware of if you do have like the article said, if you do have exposed cuts and things of that nature, you might want to take some time to let it heal, and just clean yourself. When you get home, don't start sitting down in the same clothes that you were sitting on exercise equipment in. Take those off, throw them in a hamper, and wash them.
And from what it sounded like, it's probably not the best idea to take showers in the gym. I don't know how many people are doing that.
They do it.
I just walk past the shower and just say to myself, like, I don't know why anyone would do that, but again, to each his own. So definitely take caution. I would suggest, if you're gonna take a shower at a gym, wear flip flops.
Yeah, shower shoes.
Yeah, I would venture to say wear those swimming joints.
Wear a body condom.
No lie, you should definitely wear at least some swim shoes.
Right.
But yeah, I was gonna say, we did a show and we talked about in hospitals how trying to kill these viruses and bacteria, right? Over time, they develop immunity, and they change. So the same thing happens in these gyms, right? To where they keep spraying it with the same thing, and it's not going to kill it eventually. So I actually used to have a distributor for a really good plant solution. That was awesome. You can even brush your teeth with it. But yeah, we're going to have to find that guy again.
That's deep.
Yeah, so you'd want to find something that's natural to where these things don't develop weird immunities to it.
So I know that in this age of technology, we've seen some fascinating developments in terms of exercise equipment. I can tell you right off the top that when my father got a treadmill, I was, and I was relatively young. This is way before I acquired knowledge of self or got knowledge of myself. But the whole idea of a treadmill, a machine that controls not only how quickly you're walking, but it can in some way influence your heart rate unnaturally. It just terrified me, and I was so glad when I looked one day and I looked at the treadmill, and it looked like a piece of junk that he just threw aside because he stopped using it.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about some of the dangers of exercise equipment, just as far as a roundtable?
Yeah.
What's the danger of all these
You
types
brought
of
up the
exercise
treadmill.
equipment?
I'm sure we've all seen the YouTube
Epic
videos,
fails.
right?
Yeah.
Of the dudes running on the treadmills and then speeding it up and smash on his face and shoots off the treadmill,
Yeah.
or the jackass where they sit someone on the treadmill, whatever, and launch him someplace. Yeah. I mean, also, I would say not only that, I would say as far as working out, you know, yeah, just those, as far as it being dirty and just, you're depending on the machine to function properly.
And that was the point. That was the point I was gonna make. And this is what I ask.
Machines
Yeah, I ask my clients the simple question. They're like, "Are you a machine?" No. Okay, if you're not a machine, then how is a machine going to get you in shape?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's only going to move in a robotic fashion. You're not a robot. You need to be functional, dynamic, and moving through different planes of motion like you would in your regular day of life.
And they don't simulate that in a machine.
No, I mean, they're trying to make them more, but it's a machine, you know?
Sounds like cyber training, huh?
Yeah,
you
right.
know.
And then not only that, like for instance, when you're doing butterflies, right? It isolates just that part.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't get to use the other muscles that you would
Exactly.
normally use when you were engaging in this kind of movement.
Right.
So now you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
It would be the equivalent of starting your car and it's a 6-cylinder, but you're only going to start it with 3.
Right.
That's
You're
deep.
like,
That's deep.
And that's the science of, when people work out, they go to the gym for 2-3 hours because they're only isolating one muscle at a time. When you shouldn't really be in the gym more than an hour.
Right.
But the workout you do should be.
I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time? You shouldn't be.
In the gym for more than 1 hour.
And why is that?
Because after that time, you go into an exhaustion state where your body starts really depleting all of the glycogen, which is the source that gives your energy its muscle, or gives your muscle its energy. And then after that point, now you start using protein as a source of energy, and you start breaking down muscle. So a lot of these dudes are in there for 3-4 hours, are actually breaking down and destroying their muscle more than they're actually building it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I'm telling you, like I said, this type of information is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you're getting it all here.
To Teray.
We want to build some more schools. True indeed, man. It's groundbreaking. I kind of wanted to piggyback on what my brother brought up in terms of the type of machine and just the unnatural movement that we engage in if we use these types of machines. One of the things, again, I'm looking at the report from the Huffington Post, and they have a posting on there. It's titled "Learn All About Weightlifting Machines." And not only does it say learn how to use them properly, but some of the things that they said people should probably avoid using could lead to some severe physical damage. So I'll just point out a couple of those. The first one says machine side raise. It says that it locks your shoulders into a range of motion and can damage your rotor cuff. Seated crunch machine. This can create very tight hip flexors and hurt your lower back.
When your hip flexors are already tight. So this is one of the most common issues that people come with is it's called lordosis or anterior pelvic tilt. Basically, when your hips rotate forward because they become really tight in the front. So as we sit, that hip muscle is in a flex state. So when that becomes overly tight, you stand up, your body still wants to be straight, but your hips are tight, so your lower back extends to get you that height that you're used to. But now your lower back's in a strained state, so anything that you do that incorporates your abs, it's going to strain your lower back because your abs became weak also. You know what I mean? So when your lower abs are in extended state, that means the opposing muscle becomes weak. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
yeah.
Let's run it on down the line.
Yeah.
I have another one. Cable pull downs behind your neck. It says unless you have very good shoulder flexibility, craning your neck can damage your upper spine.
And it's one of the things that I you know, the more you get the knowledge of yourself, the more you start just looking at things that just don't make sense. When do you ever do anything that requires you to, you know, if you're going into your cabinet at the house, you're not going to reach behind your head, you know?
Trying to lift something.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
You
Pull it
know?
over.
So,
Harlem Globetrotter kitchen.
so you know, it doesn't make sense.
Right, and I think just from my experience, one of the best things that was imparted to me when I was taken to the gym with one of my brothers in the temple, um, he didn't point out any type of machines. The first place he took me was to get the light dumbbells. And all of the exercise he showed me was using those
It's
dumbbells.
free range of motion.
Yeah.
And he said, pick the one that you can handle. It has a little bit of weight. And he showed me a ton of different exercises, just standing on a workout bench and, you know, doing these types of things. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Right.
Can you imagine a skinny man with cuts? So now, I mean, this is valuable information. Why don't we dive right into, which I think is going to be like one of the most enlightening portions of the show, if you can figure out which one is more than the other. We're going to talk about the deceptions surrounding medication and vitamins. So I'm just going to begin with the idea of diet pills and weight loss formulas and their danger. And I mean, we can sew this up relatively quickly, but I'll give you all some information that comes from webmd.com, diet/features lose weight dangers. If you are a person who's taking diet pills are synonymous with appetite suppressants. So any type of medication that is considered a diet pill, or they're pitching it to you through commercials, or maybe you may see it walking down the aisle of a pharmacy. Not only are they not FDA approved, and you know when something's not FDA approved, you know it's just it's a dose of death, because we've told you a little bit about the failure of the FDA in terms of our food and our produce specifically. But for the most part, WMD, they have quite a bit of information about why you should not take diet pills. Not only does it suppresses the appetite, but it could also lead to some serious addiction. So I wanted to just kind of pass that around the round table in terms of what came out in your research and your observations about diet pills.
How quick do you want to make this conversation? Basically, within these pills, they're giving you speed. So the long and short of it is you can get better speed on the street than you can at the store. And if you're going to do it, you might as well go for it. Right? Go big or go home. I don't condone the use of speed. But that's what you're taking, basically, when you take these diet pills. You need, like you said, appetite suppressants. Right? They're all around the same thing of methamphetamine speeds. So, I mean, that's one thing that's why I say stay away from it.
Right. I was going to give my personal experience with the diet pill. I remember when I was in high school, I was playing high school football, and one of the bigger supplements or ingredients in supplements was ephedrine. I know y'all familiar with ephedrine. So it was basically a stimulant that gave you a large amount of energy, and it's like a fat burner. Or what it does is it causes your body to work at a rate that you're not necessarily working at. So your heart and other different cardiovascular things, or just your whole system is working overdrive. So then when you exercise, it's triple, the amount of exertion. And I can remember one time, and this is when I completely said I'm never touching a supplement again. I was sitting, I think I was in class, maybe my senior year or junior year, and my heart just started going like rapid, and I started, perspiring and sweating, and I'm like, damn, am I having a heart attack?
Speed attack.
Yeah. So that was like, okay, it's a wrap. So since then, I haven't touched any. But yeah,
Wow.
you know.
So I mean, and I think this would be really good for adolescents or adolescents out there who are watching this show. You know, there comes a time in football season, and actually for our adolescents who are getting into boxing, we'll talk about that some other show. But what is the best way for football players to make weight? If they have a limited amount of time to make their weight, if they're over their weight, what are some natural or healthy ways that they could actually, lose some weight?
Work hard. It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where people always try to find a shortcut, but it's hard work. So, you knew you had to make weight months, years prior, right?
Here's
So
what
don't
today's before.
So don't wait a week before and say, "Damn, I gotta lose 10 pounds." Right?
Right.
You should be maintaining your weight so that when it comes to that time, you just be ready to go.
Right. And just to add on to that, any kind of weight loss that is too rapid is not safe for the body. Right, and the body won't respond to it properly.
Look at Roy Jones Jr. To me, one of the greatest boxers at one point to ever fight. And you see how he went from, I think he was like a light heavyweight to, a heavyweight. And then I think he tried dropping back down to lightweight in a short amount of time. And you saw how his ability decreased. And he's really never been the same.
Right. I mean, it really slowed him down.
Yeah.
Compared to his previous fight.
Right, watching the highlights where he's just like, whoosh, whoosh,
right. Exactly.
Yeah. Wasn't doing that anymore.
Right.
Indeed. I think this is just food for thought. I think it would be really interesting. I just want to throw this out here. To quote this article, it says that the FDA urges people to report dangerous supplements through its MedWatch program. Specifically, it says the HCG, which is human chorionic gonadotropin diet, is a good example of a plan that is not FDA approved for weight loss. So if you're seeing these types of things maybe floating in your fitness magazines, because they have a ton of ads that are promoting you get these vitamins, you may go to your local liquor store and you're looking at certain supplements because you want to, for whatever reason, lose some weight on your long distance trip to see someone you haven't seen for 10 years. I don't know why you'd be doing it, but it's a really good idea to avoid those types of things. Now, I did have a question in terms of the energy drinks. Sometimes people, they work out and then they have to go to work, and many of them are drinking Monster and they're drinking all these other energy drinks. And remember, the God You Kill had shared this article about a teenager who actually passed away as a result of drinking one of those energy drinks. So how can we boost our energy after a workout without having to drink those energy drinks? What are some alternatives?
A good breathing regimen, like qigong breathing, to help circulate the energy and kind of revive yourself. Is a good way of doing that. Drinking water. Right?
Yeah, it's not high science.
Yeah, at all. I would say Gatorade, but there are some things in Gatorade that
not Gatorade.
It's kind of iffy, but it's basically sugar water. And if you're looking for a quick way to hydrate, Gatorade works. But yeah, far and foremost, I would say water probably the best thing to do is just make sure you just drink a lot of water and stay hydrated afterwards.
Yeah,
some good breathing.
Juice, like we spoke about, natural juice. Because your body is depleted, so it's gonna need replenishment as far as nutrients goes. That's a liquid form, so there's no digestion required. So you got your juice. Another thing is, the type of workout that you do is very important because there's something called endorphins that get released into your body when you work out, and that's a natural form of energy.
Right.
So you should feel energized after a workout.
Right.
If you're doing it properly in the first
Exactly.
place.
Right.
Right, and you know, just eating some fruit afterwards. You know, that's a really good way to
Good
boost your
source
energy.
of natural sugar.
True indeed, because I know sometimes when you're working out, you deplete potassium in your body, and you know, for those of you who are up on just being in tune with your body, when potassium is when your body needs potassium, one of the things it's going to tell you, just like when it lacks protein, you're going to experience dizziness, you know, borderline head spins, especially if you've worked out. So I would say, you know, replenish the body with juice, water, and some healthy fruit. Now, I know, Jakil, you had this for us. What is this idea of omega 6 and 9 oils? I mean, you know, I'm just not in this realm of
I'm ready.
thinking.
I'm ready for this one.
What is that all about?
Oh man, it's actually 3, 6, and 9 that people really talk about. Um, and so basically, those are essential fatty acids oil that our body needs, and you know. We're not necessarily getting in food like we used to, so a lot of people are supplementing. Now that's good. I definitely think you should supplement. The problem is the sources where people are getting this 3, 6, and 9 from. Generally, it's fish, and that's just not a good source for many different reasons.
Look at the current event.
Yeah, we just did a current event talking about it, right? Not only that, these oils, in the process of making them, they have to heat it up. To a temperature past to where it turns rancid. So in the process of making these oils, it's turning rancid in the body, right? Not only that, there's also, I mean, I'm not trying to give away too many secrets. We make an essential fatty acid. You need to have more than just 3, 6, and 9. You also have to have omega-7, right, to make it work together. So when people are out shopping and you're looking for essential fatty acids, make sure it has 3, 6, 7, and 9 in it. Right, to actually get a complete balance, and it has to be formulated properly, and then that's kind of more of like the secret how you make it stuff. But yeah, you want to make sure it has a good balance in it. So not only that, if you're somehow going to argue with me, which you can't, but people try, and they say, well, the source that I'm getting is not rancid. Something that happens in the body, right? Your liver is at like 102 degrees. Now, these oils turn rancid at room temperature, which is 70-something degrees, let's say 84 degrees even. Right? So when you ingest these things, they turn rancid inside your liver. Right? And so then you kind of get scoliosis in the liver, and you're running into those kind of issues like that, potentially.
That was eye-opening.
So now, let's take it to the fat burners. Jarul, and what we consider weight loss supplements. I did mention the diet pill, but we do like to make very clear distinctions in some of the ways that, you know, these types of things are being pitched to us. So now we're going to talk about weight loss supplements, which is packaged completely different than your average diet pill.
Yeah.
So,
you know, it's simple, man. When it comes to weight loss, it's calories in versus calories out, or calories expended. So, like I said earlier, fat is just stored energy. So, if you want to lose fat, you have to exert energy. You know, it doesn't have to be overly complex, but these fat burners and all these different things are basically that mystery god or people selling you a dream that are gonna have detrimental effects to your health. You know, like you spoke about the liver, kidneys, and those types of things. Aren't going to recognize these things as natural. Therefore, they're going to try their hardest to get it out of your system.
Right.
And then that's going to wreak havoc on the kidneys, liver, and other different areas of the body. So, yeah, I mean, basically, like I spoke about earlier, fat burners tend to up your cardiovascular system to make you feel like you're working out when you're not working out. And then that's just putting, you know, undue stress on your cardiovascular system.
And I'm glad we brought that up, because I actually want to say that about the energy drinks, right? Those basically cause your adrenal glands to overproduce, right? And so, and like you mentioned with the belt that people put on to work out, when you put that belt on that does something that your body's naturally supposed to do, your body stops doing it. Your body's actually really efficient.
Yeah.
Right? And it'll find ways to do what it needs to do, or if something doesn't need to be done, then it won't do that thing anymore.
You have to teach it properly.
Right. And so if you give it these drinks or fat burners and stimulants that cause the body to act unnaturally, it will respond to that by turning off your kidneys and shutting down your adrenals because you have a source that's doing it for it.
Right.
Wow. So it's basically like tricking the body, you know.
Or a lot of times you can burn them out, right? So you overproduce it. It'd be the same thing of staying in, if you're in your car and staying in like third gear the whole time and then revving your engine out. Yeah, you can do that for a while, right? But eventually your engine's going to say, you know what? You need to shift or I'm just going to drop.
So, I mean, what came to mind, and I've since forgotten the name of the weight loss supplement, but it was one of those major shakes. Yes, that's exactly what it is. You know, when women, when they skip a meal and drink a Slim Fast, what are some of the adverse effects of that type of weight loss supplement?
Well, you know, the premise isn't necessarily that bad. If you're going to skip a meal, you just want to have something nutritious. You want something that needs to be highly digestible. It should be more in a liquid form. So, like we, stated earlier, the juicing. You know, you get your nutrients. You're not getting the additives and the chemicals and things of that nature. And you're not, you don't have to necessarily worry about the digestive part. But Slim Fast, is one of those things that's engineered, so therefore it's going to have a lot of things that aren't really good for you in it. You know what I mean?
Wow, I'm glad you reminded me of that because I haven't seen it advertised in so long. You know, things kind of come and go in the world. You know, so let's go into the discussion about vitamins. I know one of the things that my grandparents always did when I went down to their house. Every summer growing up, they would give me some vitamins.
Flintstone joints?
No, I mean, it used to be some vitamins. I would be like, man, what is that? And they would just be like, here, take them. And my grandmother would also give me cod liver oil. She would give me a teaspoon of cod liver oil every time I went down there.
Get the flush out of your liver and kidneys.
I never questioned it. She would just say, here, take this cod liver oil, and it was nasty.
Yeah.
But, let's get into a discussion about vitamins in terms of what should we be using, and what should we avoid, and how do you determine a good vitamin, especially now when you go to a pharmacy and it's like, man, I don't know.
Right, or like Vitamin Shoppe or GNC.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what's a good vitamin there either.
Yeah.
I look for them. I'm like, man, where's the good vitamins out here?
know?
There's a lot of expensive ones, but not necessarily good ones.
Right.
I think part of the thing with taking vitamins that people, let's take it to the beginning. First, you need to look at how the vitamin is made or formulated. Right? When you ingest anything, it has to go past the liver. Right? So the liver chops things up in a very specific numbering chain. Right? So if you design your vitamin to not fit on that chain properly, the liver will actually cut up the part that you want to get in. Right? And so that's what happens when you go to the restroom, like B vitamins, for example, and you go in your urine, it's all like green or yellow, right? It's because you're just wasting all that vitamins that you ingested, because they didn't create the chain in such a way to where it could get past the liver's chopping part.
Okay, so I have a question.
Literally.
Right. In terms of the color of your urine, how do you know when your body, in terms of the liver and the kidneys, are well functioning? Let's give them an example of what color should urine be.
Generally,
if you're healthy,
not the color of U2's shirt.
right. Yeah, if it's this color or this color,
right,
or this color,
right,
it's definitely something bad.
Right. We're searching for clear.
We're searching for clear.
True indeed.
And that comes really from drinking the proper amount of water. And I think I've given the secret away, so I can't even call it a secret anymore. But 1 liter of water for every 50 pounds of body weight.
Brother, I'll be honest with you guys. Well, I ain't gonna lie anyway. But you know, I think many years ago, when I urinated and my urine was clear, man, I thought something was wrong with me. I was like, I was like, why it looked like water, you know?
Right.
So yeah, that's one of those shocking revelations of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and then you know, past that, your vitamins. Once we pass the liver and it starts absorbing into the body, right? Like I mentioned, a lot of people have gut issues. You're talking like 70+% of the people, at least in America, easily on the earth, but are dealing from gut issues, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, things like that, and they have absorption issues. So you take these vitamins, and then somehow you either take enough or your vitamins get enough to where it makes it past the liver, right? But then you can't even absorb what's usefulness. So again, you're literally pissing away your money.
Wow. And remember, the liver is what prevents the toxins from attacking your system.
Right.
And I know those of you who are into qigong, if you find a good qigong teacher, there are what they call healing sounds, and one of those sounds that you can be taught is the liver sound, which is used to to heal your liver, so to speak. So and I would always just say, being a former alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic, whatever you want to call it, man. I don't drink anymore. Is that alcohol, it damages your liver regardless of what amount you're using it in. Like I was taught, each time you drink alcohol, you're damaging your liver. You're altering you're just altering it.
For sure. I was having that conversation with my son, and he was like, well, "Do you drink?" And I was like, "No, son." And I was like, "If I did, it maybe I guess be wine, or I'll have a drink socially, I guess, but I'm not the 5-shot guy. Shot. That's not me."
Every Friday night.
I was like, but the reason for that is because you're literally drinking poison.
Yeah.
Outside of you getting a really good wine, if you're drinking alcohol, you're drinking poison.
Yeah.
Like, well, why would you want to do that?
Right.
He's a pretty bright kid. He was like, "Yeah, Dad, why would you want to do that?" I don't know. Some people do. But speaking of bowel issues, quantum products, this balance here actually helps take. Let's see that. That actually helps deal with gut issues and cleaning up the gut and getting it functioning, so that when you do actually begin to take a good vitamin, right, it can actually get some absorption and function into the body. It also clears up IBS.
What is that called?
That's Balance, formulated by my teacher and I, Dr. Who used formulations.
Fantastic. I'm assuming that these are not widely available yet.
Not widely, no. Only get them from us. So.
Okay. And if you notice, the way these are packaged, all right. So since everybody is always choosing things that are packaged a certain way and you think it's healthy for them, not only do we have the person who's advocating this and he uses these and he can definitely certify their usefulness, but look at the packaging. We're not standing anywhere hustling you.
He didn't bring out a plastic bag. And was like,
check this out.
I got some of this.
Yeah, you want to take one of these? And what's the other one?
Okay, the other one is Parmalee. This is a good one for anyone traveling, anytime you get sick, even for babies, right? You don't necessarily want to give them Tylenol, things like that. Actually, I was just building with the God about that. When you get a cold or a flu and the body heats up, that's actually an appropriate response to it. And what the body's trying to do is heat up so it can burn out and kill whatever is in there. But actually, these Tylenols and things like that attempt to break the fever, right? But so when you break the fever, you're then not allowing the body to do what it needs to do to heal itself.
And you're making the conditions more suitable for that bacteria or virus, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So what this will do is it'll clean that up and fight those things naturally.
Right, and it's also been said that Tylenol eventually it can put a hole in your stomach.
For sure.
Repeated use of aspirin as well can do that.
Cause heart attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the other thing you got?
Oh, the
there?
last one. This one is Lightning Storm.
Wow, sounds powerful.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, what's dope about that one is we actually did a study at UCLA as far as helping kids with autism, and so that'll take care of any kind of brain disorders, autistic, ADD, you have a problem functioning, as far as like brain fog, things like that. That'll clear it right up. So we did with this alone and changing your diet, no nuts, wheats, dairy, or seeds. In 2 weeks, you're having different kids.
Fantastic. I'll be talking to you on payday, God.
Yeah,
straight up. So why don't we go ahead and take a break? I mean, you can't get this much information anywhere. I'm just going to tell you the truth about it. We've only been broadcasting this show since February this year, and we've probably given you all about 100,000 years worth of information. So keep that in mind, and we'll be back with the Knowledge of Self radio show. Peace.
Peace.
Some sexual potency.
Oh, it's still on, man.
You got to chicken trends.
Yeah.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge of Self radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace. Jaquil Knowledge Allah.
Peace, Jarullah.
Still here with the Supreme Mind. So we want to talk a little bit about Minute Health Fitness for your mind, body, and soul. And I have a quote here which says, superior attitude, superior state of mind. So we want to just jump in and talk a little bit about meditation and how meditation improves one's mental and physical health. So I could just say, just from experience, that when I came into the study of meditation and actually became a practitioner of it and actually taught Tai Chi for about 3 or 4 years, you meditate so deeply you forget how many years it teaches, brother. I'm just gonna tell you like that. I can't remember. But the point is, even when you've kind of tapered off from regular meditation, it becomes a serious part of your own being to where you can handle any type of stress factor that is in your life. One of the things that people always ask me where I work, and I'm an educator, is how is it you're always so calm and well, first of all, I don't take anything that seriously, because at the end of the day, I'm just going there to teach young people. Whatever they say, they're just going to say it. However, meditation, it leads to a training of the mind. It allows you to learn how to breathe properly, and you begin to apply that in any situation. Like when someone may say something offensive to you, or you know, without being in that frame of mind where the meditative state of mind or approach in life, you're gonna fly off the handle.
That leads me, and
Yes, sir.
I was building with my client earlier today, and I was basically told him because he was dealing with a lot of stress, and he said, he asked me a question where, how do you take like yourself from like an environment that's peaceful and go out into the world where it's chaotic and not conform to the world? And I was basically just telling him that to me, peace isn't something that you find in solitude, but peace is something that you find in the midst of chaos.
Mm.
If you can still be at peace in the midst of chaos, and you're truly at peace.
That's a great like T-shirt waiting to be made. If you guys take that idea, we want 5%. Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing. Yeah, you really can't find. It's the same thing that like Bruce Lee would say about people who want to learn how to fight. And the first day going to class, he would throw them in the ring with people who were already there for months, days, years, training and fighting. And they'd be like, well, I want to learn how to fight. And he'd be like, exactly. So you learn how to fight by getting into fights.
Right.
Just like you learn about swimming by getting into the water.
Right,
You can
right.
read books about it, and we can philosophize about it, but until you actually get in the water, we don't know if any of that stuff works.
And that's how they get rich. Because
Right.
think about it, like people who want to get faster, right? They have all these extravagant workouts that people are getting rich off of. It's simple. You want to run fast? Practice running fast.
Right.
You want to jump high? Practice jumping high.
Yeah.
It's not high science.
Right.
I actually heard a story of it was a martial arts story where this father made his son plant some kind of plant in the backyard and made him jump over that plant every day. So as the plant grew, the kid obviously had to jump higher. So eventually, this kid is jumping 5, 7 feet like it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just every day he just jumps a little higher.
Right.
It becomes
That's
a normal thing. And yeah, no secret to it. He wasn't like lead weights and holding 100 books on his back while meditating to Buddha.
He wasn't wearing Air Jordans.
No, he didn't even have any pumps.
Right.
Which surprised me. I was like, come on, how you do that without pumps? No air cushions in your shoes? Really? But yeah, just like you said, you want to learn how to do those things, you just practice doing it.
Mm-hmm.
True indeed. I think one of the things that there are higher levels of meditation. I would say that if you talk to any Buddhists, one of the things that's in their practice, or at least if you're talking to real Buddhists, not just people who read the books, but actually are practice Buddhism, their discipline, tells them to explore themselves, and a large part of that exploration is through meditation.
Right.
So here's what I would advise. You would pick a time of the day. So I was always told to meditate from between the hours of 6 to 7. And we're not going to get into a really long discussion about Tai Chi, but that was for specifically Tai Chi practitioners. The Chi is the strongest between 6 and 7 and 11 and 12, okay, at night. So 6 to 7 in the morning and 11 to 12 at night, depending on who your Sifu is. But I've tried it out, and I can truly say that if you meditate at some point during those times, your flow will be stronger. However, meditation at any part of the day is beneficial. You can either sit down in a quiet place, and you either sit in a full lotus or a half lotus. I'm not going to demonstrate that now. You can look it up, the difference between a full lotus and a half lotus. I generally sit in the half lotus. If you're having some issues with your back, keep in mind, and especially if you're elderly, the most important thing you have to remember is having your posture straight. Okay, if you're leaned over, um, then you're putting stress on your back and you can't focus.
Right.
So you sit there for 10 minutes, and then you have to focus on your breathing. If you can't find a quiet place, even still attempt to just focus on your breathing. And apparently, there's a cycle of breathing which comes from your diaphragm. So if I were face sideways, your breathing should go from your diaphragm up to what they call the dantian, all the way out. So it's a full cycle. You're breathing with your mouth closed. There are a lot of other things I'm not necessarily going to reveal, but again, I'm not a mason. I'll tell you this much: for you runners out there, I guarantee you that most track coaches will tell you you shouldn't be running with your mouth open.
Yeah.
You should be breathing that full cycle from your nose, from your diaphragm, all the way out, pulling with your nose. It's the full cycle. You're breathing out, breathing in. So I wanted you to add on to that, guy, in terms of the breathing cycle.
Yeah, no, it's basically the same kind of thing. I'll give an extra little secret. When you're breathing in from your nose and it cycles through, if you connect your tongue to the top part of your mouth, that's actually called your lalgar point.
Deep stuff.
And that actually,
I wasn't gonna tell him that.
I know, right? All you kung fu people come see me. Yeah, and so that will actually connect that and allow the energy to flow. But what a lot of people don't tell you is that only allows the energy to flow on the top part. It does not connect the lower half of the body. So when you're meditating, generally the reason why they're doing that is meditating the upper part and channeling the energy that way. And like the guy said, you're sitting in like a lotus position, so you're not too really about channeling energy from your feet. See, so it's a little different breathing process. But yeah, and then you can add the arms with your breathing. Some people do meditating in the still. You do like a Tai Chi thing where you're meditating in your movement. You can add a simple, when you breathe in, your arms come in, when you go out, your arms go out. And you kind of make that circle motion to continue with your breathing cycle.
True indeed.
Wow.
And you know, I wanna give this to people who are, who pray. You actually meditate every day, but what you fail to do is you fail to shut up. So you're not getting the full benefit. So how about this? Try not to talk to the Lord and just sit there in silence for a few minutes.
Right. It
And
talks
calm
about
your
that in the
mind.
Bible too, sitting in silence and listening to God.
True indeed.
Yeah. Another thing, just a quick one about prayer, which some people kind of get away from, but when I was young, I was taught to pray like this. When you watch like Buddhist monks or Kung Fu flicks, right? The monks always walking around like this. Part of this is because this is showing you how you generate energy, how energy flows through your body, right? And so this will keep you strong, whereas if you turn your hands this way, this will make your body weak. Right? There's actually energetic tests. Maybe we'll make a video about that. But yeah, there's energetic tests that you can do that will show your body being strong this way and then weak the other way. So when you're praying, you want to be strong and connected with everything. So this keeps you strong and connected.
Indeed. And you know, you don't need a rug, and you don't need all these things you may see on television programs. You can do this in your car, right? Yeah,
helmet.
Yeah, you can do this in your car, of course.
Sure.
You know,
Not while you're driving.
Right, not while you're driving. And word of precaution, where you are, just be aware of your surroundings, of course, so that you won't be worried about, whatever. But the point is, it take you a few minutes, 10 minutes. You just sit there in silence and focus on your breathing. And when you get really good at it, you should be able to meditate and block out anything that's going on around you. I had one good friend who told me he got to that level of meditation where he was beginning to see, I don't know if you can consider the holograph of the planet Earth. it gets to the point to where you can channel that meditation so deep to where your mind travels in that respect. It's deep, man.
Right, for sure. Yeah, no, my teacher, the same guy who makes these products, actually, showed me energetics and energy breathing and stuff like that. People always ask him, what do you do about your Tai Chi breathing and meditating? And he'd always laugh and say, I like to breathe. I think we all need to breathe. Don't you need to breathe? And I think no one ever gets it, but I think what he's saying is that he's always breathing like that because that's just proper breathing. When you watch a baby breathe, which I'm about to have when you got a little one, you'll see them breathe with the abdomen, right? And not with the chest.
Yep.
Not this kind of breathing, but with the stomach expanding. And
right.
So that's what he says. He's like, I like to breathe, meaning that's how you're just supposed to breathe naturally. Yeah. So you should always kind of be in that meditative, peaceful state.
Yeah, great book. I don't know if y'all have ever read it, but it's called The Science of Breath.
No.
Yeah, Science of Breath.
I've been meaning to get to it.
Yeah. I mean, they go into that. They definitely go into that. They talk about they call Americans mouth breathers.
Yep.
Because people tend to breathe through their mouth. When you think about it, your nostrils are suited to clean a lot of what is in the air. That if you're breathing through your mouth, you're going to take in and it's going to wreak havoc inside of your body. So that's just one little piece of it. But yeah, you can get that book for free as a PDF online, The Science of Breath. I think they have it on a website called sacredtext.com also. So do the knowledge.
Wow. Yeah, meditate every day. Meditate every day. It's important. Now, let's talk a little bit about stretching. And how does stretching... I know there may be some varying views about it, but how does stretching improve exercise and your circulation in your life in general?
Yeah, well, one thing with stretching, which, is kind of like a misnomer. People think that if you stretch prior to a workout, that it's going to limit the chances of you injuring yourself, which isn't 100% true because think about it. If you're going to do an exercise or a workout that requires a certain level of exertion, what are you doing when you're stretching? It's kind of the opposite of that because when your muscles flex, they condense. When you stretch, you're stretching, you're lengthening them out. So you're actually taxing the muscle by holding it in that position. Now, stretching, the way I see it is stretching is important more after the workout so that you can relax the muscles so they don't go into a further state of density. But as far as the circulation piece, I could see definitely how that would improve circulation. If you don't have a whole lot of time to exercise, which if you don't, I think that's an excuse, but that's for another show. If you don't have a whole lot of time to exercise and you can only stretch, say, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, when you stretch, quite naturally, your body's going to send blood to that region, so that will increase circulation.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree. I personally have never been a fan of stretching. Even playing sports, all the way from like Pop Warner to actually high school sports, I was always the guy like kind of with my leg out. And then the coach would look, I'd actually like stretch over a little bit so I wouldn't get in trouble for not stretching. One jewel that one of my martial art teachers dropped on me, he was like, yo, if you want to learn how to kick high, just start kicking. You know how to jump, start jumping. How to run faster, start running.
Right. It's not high science.
Right, the whole thing was eventually you start kicking, your legs are going to naturally stretch, right? But it'll do it more normally,
right?
As opposed to you forcing your body to do something that's not normal, it's used to, causing some kind of injury.
And see, that's why earlier I stated about martial arts. Martial arts has always been ahead of the curve, but people tend to not really look at it as exercise, right?
They want to fight.
Right. They just think of it as a self-defense, but it's really all-encompassing. I think, nowadays, actual exercise in the gyms setting and in sports, it's more specifically football, it's kind of catching up now. You have more dynamic warm-ups, which...
But they're also starting to dive a lot into, like I remember, what did Shaq play for the Phoenix Suns? Right? And I remember them saying that they've incorporated this all-new alternative healing coach guy and an
Yeah,
alternative
yeah.
workout
Slowly,
person. So they're looking into
slowly,
other
yeah.
sciences to try to
Right.
complete what they have going on.
You know, and I have to say, as far as coaching goes, you know, Phil Jackson was definitely on the cutting edge in terms of that when he had that all-time winning Laker team. You know, it was widely published that he made them meditate. you
Right,
know,
right.
and I mean that's why they had that sense of focus during their winning streaks over
Mm-hmm.
those years. As far as stretching, I mean, uh, I had always been advised to warm up, as strange as it sounds, warm up before you stretch anything because there are so many people who injure themselves by stretching cold.
Right. Yeah.
So I was always encouraged to jump a little rope, do a little footwork, and then you can stretch on the stretch bar, but don't overdo it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, all of that has to do with uh, knowing your body. You know,
Right.
you could throw your leg up on a stretch bar and pull your groin.
Right.
So, you know,
Right,
all those
hamstring.
things have to be kept in perspective. You know, and also it's not necessarily the greatest thing to stretch your legs above your shoulder. It's not necessary. you know. So moving into you know, this is not new age thinking. This is just, you know, the science of life. Why don't we go into the simple exercises for expectant mothers? Because I know, you know, my brothers.
I
do
was
have
actually
some
looking
seeds
for,
to
yeah,
come, so
looking
I
forward
want
to
to hear this
one.
right here.
I'm all ears, guys. This is
What's the simple exercises for expectant mothers?
I want to
about?
introduce you guys to the Jarul show.
Yeah.
He's about to.
I mean, it's not like, you know, all that we've been building about. And that's a great thing I think about this show is it's not like it's high science. So I think for women and for expecting mothers, you got to look at your level of fitness. If you were exercising at a certain degree prior to you becoming pregnant, then you could still remain in that same level until you get to your later months of pregnancy. And there's certain things that you shouldn't do in your later months, like lay flat on your back and stuff like that. But
It's bad for the baby.
exactly. But prior to that, you should just really maintain similar things that you were doing. Now, I don't advise you to do, you know, all types of jump squats or explosive exercises, but you know, your common resistance training. You know, you could do lunges, you could do squats, because really you're going to need endurance to go through the labor, you know, to bring forth that baby.
It doesn't matter how much you bench pressing.
Right,
you need that endurance.
It's the endurance, yeah, and the core strength. But you know, I don't advise doing planks or anything like that later in the pregnancy. Earlier, that's fine.
Maybe
But,
not.
yeah. You know, so very basic stuff. You know.
Now, what would you say for a mother who wasn't necessarily active before, but then so now she's pregnant. She's like, well, maybe I should get a little active to help my child.
Yeah, I would say just go with yoga. They have a lot of, you know, your pregnancy type yogas out there now.
Okay.
Definitely do that, because what that's going to do is going to give you endurance, but it's going to give you stretching exercise.
Right. Good flexibility.
You know, exactly. So you'll need the flexibility in labor as well as that endurance. So and then the balance, you know.
And meditate.
Yeah.
And I meant to say this as far as anyone who feels like they have a weak back. When you meditate, you can, until your back strengthens up, you can sit against a wall, you know, and do the best you can. I mean, I've seen really elderly people, they have to keep their legs, you know, forward, but the whole point is what? Is to relax the mind.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You know, I was going to add on, you brought up posture. In yoga, so obviously posture is important. Energetically, posture is ultra important, right? So when you're leaning a certain way, your energy flow is kind of constructed and a little construed too. So that's why any good martial art teacher will tell you, no, when you punch, your hand needs to be exactly here. And you're like, but it didn't move. And he's like, yeah, it moved like half a millimeter. And that's the difference between the perfect punch and just a really good punch, right? And then he's talking about aligning your energy so that it flows properly.
Right.
And so posture, and I'm sure like you can attest to it working out. Posture is everything.
Yeah, you can't be, for example, you know, if you are benching, which, you know, it's hard to get people out of a certain mind state. So, you know, I come across somebody who wants to build up their bench press, I tell them simple things like, you know, what people tend to do is have their arms up at a 90-degree angle right here, and you can't really be powerful pushing that way because your anterior deltoid is doing too much work.
Mm-hmm.
You need to bring it down to like more 45-degree angle and push that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and that's how people get tears and stuff.
exactly.
So you know, and what came out, and he said it. I'm saying the same thing in a different way. But anything that you're doing beyond your range of physical motion, it will lead to injury. I mean, even if you're like the guy that Jaquil mentioned about the punch, you know, there's a point to where if you're punching beyond your range of motion,
Right.
you could dislocate your elbow
Right.
or dislocate your shoulder.
Right.
It's that simple,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So this was a fantastic show, and you know, we owe you all at least one exercise health fitness show per month. Why don't we go into the do, read, and view?
Okay.
For the do, avoid running on concrete unless you want shin splints. Start doing planks instead of crunches. Eat superfoods. You can look that up online and find out the list of superfoods that are out there. And be active 30 minutes a day.
So, you do read?
Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, so a great book is the Optimum Nutrition Bible. The thing I like mostly about that book is the end part because it lists different vitamins like vitamin A, B, C, all the vitamins, what they actually do in the body, why they're essential, and then certain natural foods that you can get those vitamins in. Read information in regards to superfoods, and another great book is Rational Fasting, which goes into the science of fasting and how that actually helps your body heal itself.
Yeah, definitely. Just good. And for view, we have Forks Over Knives, and that's available on Netflix.
Great show. Before we leave, I wanted the guys to give out their contact information. I'm sure it's posted on our various social media networks, but it's always good to give it to people who may be watching us in passing. So, I guess Jaquil, can you give them your contact number or information if they want to seek you for the vitamins or any other consultation?
Yeah, really, you guys can just contact me via email at Jaquil, Jakil 1, the letter A, the number 7 at gmail.com, and we can correspond there. I'll give you contact number and stuff to reach me at.
And Drew?
Yeah, you can just get me at my email, majesticsun360 at gmail. Majestic, MAJESTICSUN, the number 3, the number 6, the number 0 at gmail.com.
That's peace. So we would like to thank you all for joining us on this show, and again, we look forward to seeing you next week. Yes, sir.
Also, I just want to say that these products and more will be available on our Knowledge of Self website.
True indeed.
Very shortly.
Here we go into the new age. It's the year of the true master. So, true indeed. So, again, thank you for joining us for this broadcast, and we will definitely see you next Sunday. And stay healthy and peace.
Peace.